And then I'm going to tie in the work I'm doing with appropriate technology with the flagship and talk about some of the opportunities that I see that we have before us. So socially relevant research. This is what I think all of your research should be. Every student should look at their research and ask, why am I doing this? What significance does this have? What contribution am I making? And I have here just some simple questions that you can ask in terms of your research, in terms of how is it advancing humanity? What is it doing in terms of improving the planet, your environment? How is it providing better services to the people? How is it improving the general workspace? That, we talked about, had an excellent presentation that talked about how to improve the workspace ergonomically. So every student, when you engage in your research, you should be thinking in terms of this. What is the social relevance? Now this is important not just in terms of your project, but you have to see that the project you're working on is sort of leading you into a research agenda. So you want to think of your research agenda as having some social relevance. Too often, students just say, okay, let me just pick a topic, let me just work with this professor, or, oh, seems like a hot idea, the fourth industrial revolution, now let me pick a topic around. You really need to think in terms of the relevance. What contribution is made? So think of this. It's particularly important in our climate here where we're constantly aware of the need to alleviate poverty, and we're constantly reminded of the need for job creation. So I want all the students to think of that. Go back, if you haven't already, to think in terms of how is your research relevant, the project you're working on now, and your broader research agenda. Now this ties in with TUT. TUT talks about being, and is the people's university. But there are two particular institutional goals, and I'll just read them here. TUT has a range of institutional goals, but these are two that are particularly keen on this. To promote a culture of inquiry and social enterprise through technology-based postgraduate studies, research and innovation in current and emerging niche areas. So this social enterprise must be socially relevant. To promote mutually beneficial academic, social, and economic partnerships. So this is part of the agenda, the institutional goals at TUT. So what we're talking about in terms of social relevance is key in terms of TUT in particular. So I'm going to go now to the flagship. The concept of the flagship was to tie together the research areas across the university. Several years ago, the NRF, National Research Foundation, put out a call to different universities to put together a proposal that they were highlighting as their flagship research agenda. Several of the universities keyed in on niches. But when we met with the NRF and we told them that we wanted to tie in our research area, they're very keen on that, and we agreed on this notion of technology transfer. And when we're talking about technology transfer, we're not just talking about IP. We're talking about technology transfer in terms of transferring this technology that we're engaged in, the research we're engaged in at the university, to the community. So this, once again, was in line with the concepts of the university. So the flagship was to harness research activities across different niche areas. And the idea also with this was to improve the participation of marginalized groups within the university in terms of adding to our agenda with innovation and entrepreneurship. So you can see this also fits in well with a lot of what we're talking about now in terms of incubators and innovation within the work that Professor Prof is leading with the combination of Gabella and Merced. So TUT's needs were addressed in terms of cross-disciplinary research in terms of us looking at how to engage in terms of mentoring and in terms of advancing junior faculty. And at the same time, we had, by tying together all of our research agenda, we felt that this would make a larger appeal in terms of us attracting quality postgraduates and postdocs to this type of environment, particularly young students that were interested in socially relevant research. Because now we're talking technology transfer, transferring the technology that they were engaged in at the university to the community. At the same time, we realized that the needs of South Africa would be met. In terms of this multidisciplinary effort, in terms of technology transfer, which actually will take the cutting edge research and put it into projects that are meaningful in the community, and also in terms of job creation. So all of this we felt fit in with the agenda of not only TUT, but also broadly South Africa. So what are we talking about with technology transfer? If you look at it, they're talking about technology transfer generally on two levels. What they call vertical transfer of technology, and this is from the basic research all the way through development, actually into some type of end production. And then there's the horizontal technology transfer, where you're talking about taking technology, let's say from Germany here to South Africa. So we're concerned with both of these. We're concerned with both of these. And you'll see that this is one of the reasons we're engaged actively in a range of international partnerships. So this is the initial structure we envisioned with the flagship. Within technology transfer, we saw these three dimensions: outreach, job and enterprise creation, and actually the dissemination of the work that we're doing. And we identified initially three areas. TUT is the largest, as you know, the largest university of technology in Southern Africa, and it's engaged in a wide range of research. But we focused initially on these three areas when we submitted our proposal to NRF. And that is water research, energy, and industry. And it's because we have SARC chairs and RAM water chairs that are dealing with water research in both the Faculty of Science and also in our Faculty of Engineering and Built Environment. And in terms of a research, our energy research, this is one of the major areas that that we're conducting research through our electrical engineering department with a center on energy and several niche areas. And in terms of productivity, our electrical engineering department has been the most productive in terms of research throughout the university in the recent years. And then industry was key because of the role that we were playing in industrial engineering, the particular contributions that Professor Prof was playing, the role that Gabella was playing in terms of partnership, and initially when I came on board, the role that we were engaging with the post office in terms of service delivery. So it was both manufacturing and service delivery within the industry. So we saw these three components in terms of our initial area. But the idea was that this would just be the initial picture. The idea then we would extend into other areas such as the arts and culture, such as agriculture and agribusiness, that would make this a complete picture in terms of the research endeavors across TUT. So I mentioned that with the technology transfer, we're looking at three components. Outreach, work with the community to provide this transfer, this training, education. How do you work with the community in terms of engaging, in terms of job creation? The actual research component with technology transfer in terms of research on this very issue of job creation. So embedded within the concept of technology transfer is not just a matter of us taking the various forms of technology from the lab to the final production, but actually engaging in the research component itself of technology transfer. And this is where that fits in. The dissemination of our research in terms of sharing internationally through websites, through journals, through conferences was a key component of the transfer, because the idea is we wanted to spread this notion. We feel very positive about the concept of technology transfer, socially relevant research, and we think that this is something that not only TUT should engage in, but we want to see across South Africa and across the world. So I indicated these three focuses here in terms of water, sanitation, the energy, and then industry in terms of service and manufacturing. I'm just going to focus on, briefly, I'm not going to focus on the water one. A lot of that is in the science faculty, but within our faculty, we do have a robust research agenda with regards to energy that includes clean energy, it includes wind, it includes a working for energy program that they have. There's an active engagement with these research in smart grid development and management, and a lot of issues with regards to green energy, including green transport and energy efficiency. And also within that, the university has a number of designated niche areas. I'll speak a bit about that. And one of them is actually the energy and industrial power systems niche area. And the idea with niche areas were that these are areas that have been developed. There are about 10 different ones across the university. And the idea is the university gives them some seed funding, and the idea is to eventually bring that area up to the level of being a center. So industry innovation is one of the key things here. And this is really the core of where we're developing the flagship at this point, and this is where the work that Prof and Pofu and the development chair is playing a key role. Manufacturing skills become key to that, because we see that this is an area that not only will provide benefit directly to Gabella, but more broadly to the industries across South Africa in terms of skilled jobs, but also will aid in terms of creating jobs across the supply chain with the skill development. Reconfigurable manufacturing has been key in this. The work that we did with the post office in terms of service, innovation, and optimization. And the most recent thing that I'm excited about, that's a key part of the work that's being led by Prof and Pofu, is the learning factories that we're looking at as a way of skill development and a way of looking at innovation and entrepreneurship. So this is just a picture I took from a source that sort of links in this concept of industry, university, government, all playing a role in terms of linking in with this learning factory, this collaboration that we're talking about, in terms of looking at how to take from the university, build on what we have in terms of our partnerships with industry and with government, and really look at how to develop this kind of environment where we can provide the skills development that's critical, both in terms of providing needed skills in the existing environments and also in terms of job creation across the supply chain. And key technologies that we see in this is simulation and this augmented and mixed reality that several of us are engaged in. Simulation is key. This is just a picture from a Simon's simulation, but it just kind of gives you an idea of how within a floor environment, a factory environment, you can have a simulation that become very helpful in terms of getting a better understanding of not only the system, but particularly problems that you can face with, confronted with in a system situation, and how to run different scenarios and actually look at providing decision support to solve those problems. So we're engaging in several of the presentations yesterday talked about AnyLogic. This is a slide from one of their books that just sort of points out the three levels or three types of simulation that we're engaged in that would be key in terms of this. That is the discrete event simulation, the agent-based modeling, and the system dynamics. So we have several people in our department that are engaged in this. Several of us have gone through the AnyLogic training. A number of us have actually been engaged with simulation prior to that. So we see this as a strong point that we can add to our agenda. Augmented reality is now, and mixed reality is now a hot area. And we're engaged now in terms of how we can ramp up on this. But this just gives you an idea of the value added that it can give within the learning factory. Here you have someone who has basically a pad, and he's being able to actually add items to the environment to sort of see what types of things would happen. So the value of us being able to get engaged with augmented reality within the learning factory will be a big plus in terms of what we can provide in terms of training, in terms of looking at issues with regards to quality and maintenance, not only as a starting point within develop, but more broadly across other industries that we hope to be engaged with. So we had laid out the flagship responsibilities, and actually with the proposal indicated key players that would be engaged with this. You see Prof. is a key player within industry. Associate Dean Prof. Munda in electrical engineering is a key player in energy. Prof. Mumba, who is a Sarshi chair in water, is in the Faculty of Science, is the key player. Prof. Ojo is playing a key role in terms of ICT. Prof. Mucci, who is our Sarsi chair for innovation, is playing a key role in terms of entrepreneurial engineering design. Myself, in appropriate technology, and then Dr. Ms. Bingla is innovation economics, who is in the, what's that area then? IRI, which is in economics on the campus on Mount C. So we see that we have this. And the key here is cross-cutting areas. I talked about the three disciplinary areas of water, energy, and industry. What we see within that is cross-cutting research that has to be done, from engineering design to appropriate technology that I talked a little bit, I'm going to get into more. ICT has to play a role. In all of these areas, we want to be able to look at how the ICT can help deliver, whether it's energy solutions or whether it's what we're talking about in terms of industry. ICT is playing a key role when we're talking about simulation and augmented reality. We're looking in terms of that augmented reality, in terms of how you're going to have to do augmented reality programming. ICT comes into play. Innovation economics, developing more efficient approaches to engage in the community. We're talking technology transfer, that means engage in the community, and this is one of the things that IRI has been responsible for. So all of this is to link together the different elements, not just these three in terms of our research agenda, in terms of water, energy, and industry, but the cross-cutting areas that then deal with other faculties, deal with economics, deal with ICT. So this is something that I was excited about when I was first asked to put together the NRF proposal for it. Different flagship components. Partnerships are key, because we're looking at making this the agenda of the university. So partnership, both like the Bella, which is the lead by Post Office, CETA, DST, NRF are all key. One of the things that we saw as key to this developing a connection with Fab Lab. Fab Lab is a fabrication lab that started at MIT, and it's actually an international network, and it has these fabrication labs that allow for innovation, different types of items to be basically prototyped. And the nice thing about it is that because they've set a standard in this fabrication laboratory, they have networked and they're sharing a lot of ideas internationally, and basically they have Fab Labs from across the world, not only starting in the U.S., but across Europe. They have several across South Africa. So to be part of that network is key in terms of being able how we can look at this technology transfer in terms of researching, taking research to prototype to production. So we wanted to be part of that. Key to this whole effort of Flagship is mentoring. Capacity building within the university. So mentoring is key to that, and this is also one of the things I've been excited about, is one of those people who are on the tail end of your career. You saw from the first slide, I retired from my university in the U.S. I'm excited about how to mentor and really get the next generation of academics and researchers engaged. So this is just a shot of some of the Fab Labs to give you an idea of some that are, and this is one that's in East Africa, one that, I think this one at the bottom was one that was Shoutout of Europe. So they have similar kind of layouts, but they share information. Collaborators and partners, key. We have a number of universities we're looking at collaborating within South Africa, a number of non-academic partners, a number of international partners in 14 different countries. I do have Germany listed there. So part of this was to build on the track record. So we have not only the develop research chair manufacturing skills, but we had a number of SARC chairs that we actually were tying in with this effort in terms of this. So this was key. We weren't starting from scratch. The idea is to really link in the existing work in terms of getting away from these silos that quite often exist within the university in terms of bringing the players together. We already had a niche area in ICT in terms of ICT for development. So this fit in nicely. Now we're talking about technology transfer. How can the ICT play a role in terms of the technology transfer? So these are some of the niche areas that we have that tie in with our work. Climate change, water security, disaster, this is a niche area. Appropriate architecture is one of the niche areas within our faculty of engineering and built environment that we're engaging with, not only in terms of this effort, but the effort that I'll talk at the end in terms of the next appropriate technology conference we're having. I mentioned the ICT for development. Controlled image processing and machine intelligence is one of those out of electrical engineering. Enterprise development and management research in the BRICS block is one out of the management. And the most recent one is one that we initiated just last year, is our operations and engineering management one. And this is a unique one that I'll say a few words about because it's the first one that's cross faculty. All of the niche areas to date have been started by a couple of researchers in the department that want to combine and collaborate within the department. Last year they made a call and said, we'd like to see us break the silos between faculties. So since I had a joint appointment in industrial engineering and in operations management in the faculty of management, I initiated with researchers in both departments to come up with this niche area that engages us in a range of areas that across both of our departments, such as supply chain management, operations research. Operations research is taught in our department, and our faculty is taught in management school and operations management, project management, simulation. So we're trying to break the silos between our two departments, and it's particularly important from the management side because operations management is a younger department even than ours, and is not as staffed as well and hasn't built on this research agenda. So I hope by doing this we can actually engage in breaking silos and helping in terms of their development also. Appropriate technology. You heard from my first slide that I've coordinated an international network on appropriate technology. And this means different things to different people. And this is just one of these shots that they put up when you tie all these things together. And I thought I'd pull that off because I thought it looked nice. Yeah. Nice graphic on this in terms of sort of linking issues to, here you see everything from Schumacher, who actually was one of the people who brought this whole concept to fore with the book Small is Beautiful, to looking at things like the focus on health and solar. So you see a range of things tied into this one little graphic. But how do we look at appropriate technology? In our network, we like to just come up with a simple way of looking at it, and that is technology to empower people. Technology to empower people. So it's not a matter of thinking in terms of just indigenous technology or just simple technology. It's all about how can we use technology to empower people? And empower people, you're empowering the people's community, not just individual people. And then we thought this was nice because it also is in tune with our slogan at TUT in terms of empowering people. So I felt good about doing the work here and also being at TUT. Appropriate technology focuses in on basic needs. Because you got to deal with the basic needs when you're talking about addressing impoverishment to begin with. So food, shelter, water, energy, education, health, transportation, manufacturing, all fit into that. So you can see where this fits nicely with the whole agenda in terms of the flagship. Technology and techniques that are culturally sensitive, ecologically sound, and economically sustainable. This is key. So we don't want to just be fly by night. We don't want to just say, well, put a nuclear reactor over there, and it's not going to have the CO2 byproducts that coal fire plant have. Not thinking long term, right? So no, we want to think in terms of all of that. Utilizing local resources is key, both human and natural resources, to cut down on the additional costs that are a burden when you are looking at a lot of imports when there's things you could do locally. And this is important also in terms of empowering communities and people. So there's an agenda that we have, both developing the network itself in terms of engaging more people in it. We have biennial international conference, and I'll talk a bit about that. We also have local activities, a website that we're developing into a portal. We are looking at engaging in different appropriate technology projects across the global south. Recently, we had a conference last year in Benin, and we had several women's groups present different concepts about projects, and we just, the beginning of this year, funded one of those projects for equivalent to $5,000 US to get them kick-started. So this is, we funded, the year before, we funded a water project with a women's group in a rural area in Kenya. So part of it is not just to think in terms of conceptually, but actually to put things into practice. The last item we have on there, if you go to our website, you'll see we have a appropriate technology declaration. It says this is what appropriate technology is about, this is what we should engage in. And we're moving the broader movement to looking at how we can come up with an appropriate technology manifesto that we can have universities and agencies sign on to say, hey, this is how we'll approach technology in terms of technology policy. So we've done a number of international conferences, as was mentioned. The last one was in Benin. And the next one will be next year here, and we're planning to have it here in Pretoria. So we'll look to engage all of you in terms of that. So this just sort of gives a history of that, where we focused on different themes that center around those themes around appropriate technology, but also coincide with some of the themes that we're talking about within our flagship. Key to that, energy, water, and sanitation. So next I want to talk about opportunities. We're engaged currently in a number of opportunities. Recently, TUT, Department of Home Affairs, signed a memorandum of understanding. This is being coordinated through Operations Management Department and the Management Faculty to look at how to provide more efficient services and also to provide training for experiential training for TUT students. PESA, which is a program that both Prof and Prof are engaged in with several others, and it's a partnership between a number of universities and technologies and several European universities that have been looking at. We're engaged actually in terms of how to involve our engineering management program and engage them in terms of international contributions, particularly as we go to put more of that online. We're looking at international work around lean manufacturing with the University of Tennessee. Both Dr. Nungu and I will probably be engaged with that in the next few months. Collaboration with CETA is one of the things that we've done. And that's initially how I came as a Fulbright professor doing innovation and optimization with the post office. Fortunately, post office has seen a little decline in the recent years. We hope to pick up on that. And lastly, hosting international conferences is one of the key things that we look in terms of trying to tie the whole agenda of TUT together on. And particularly, we are highlighting a couple of conferences. With the CETA work, this is some of what we've done in terms of sponsoring ICAT participation, collaboration on technology transfer projects. These are some of the things. We hosted CETA forums last year here at TUT. The post office, we've had some successes over the year and some not so successful. Prof and Prof put together a successful NRF approved trip agreement, but unfortunately through red tape at the post office, we really couldn't get that kicked off. We want to be able to revive that. We have had success with a number of employees from the post office that have come through and become graduates over the years. And we've actually played a leading role in setting up the International Research Council for, not international, Regional Research Council for support, which is the Southern Africa Post Office Association. That's all of the SADC countries. So we played a leading role in terms of setting that up, and we're trying to really get that rolling in more than just a paper form. Right now it has members that but we're not really engaged as actively with support. So this is a key thing. We mentioned these two conferences that we're looking at next year. We're starting now. You should have got a handout on the first one in terms of CERT that's taking place in May, and then the one that we're bidding for now in November of 2020 is the 9th International Conference on Appropriate Technology. So we see this as both example of the leading role that we're playing through the kind of work that we're doing through the lead of the Bella Chair, a research chair, but also how we're trying to link this together through the whole flagship agenda of the university and through our international effort in terms of appropriate technology and through the engagement of all the students in terms of looking at their research being socially relevant. So all this leads us to trying to deal with the fact that we're in a situation in South Africa where we're cited as the most unequal society in terms of the disparity between the wealthy and the poor. But we see that what's needed in terms of this effort that we're trying to engage in with technology transfer is to directly address that by tying all the pieces together at the university and keying in on you as students to look at how you can play a role in terms of making your work, not just the project you're engaged in now, but your overall work socially relevant. Thank you.